So I'm actually really excited for episode 6 of The Walking Dead. It really does feel like they've just been building up this season. Each episode is just getting better than the last episode. Like those first 2 episodes really did not do justice for this season. One of them was a one-off with the Whisperers trying to give backstory to it, which I guess could be necessary, but I would prefer them to be more ambiguous. The last thing you want to do to your big bad is humanize them, because then they lose that fear factor. And with the Whisperers, you kind of need to be afraid of them. But we can see in the teaser for episode 6 that Daryl and Carol are heading out to destroy the Horde. At least that's what Carol's plan is. Of course, there could be some more to that plan, and I'll talk about that later. Carol says this specifically.
Alpha's Horde. We're gonna find it, and we're gonna destroy it.
So I don't know what she means by destroy it, unless destroy means in a very different form. Carol clearly wants revenge for what Alpha did to Henry, so she has more motivation than most to go out there and do this. And if she must, do it on her own. So then we cut to the Whisperer camp where Negan is being watched over by Gamma, and Alpha and Beta are kind of talking about what to do with Negan. Obviously, Beta does not trust him whatsoever. I'm gonna have to warn you for spoilers right here, because we're getting spoilers for the comics, but in the comic book, Negan completely fools Alpha into forming a fake sort of relationship for a brief moment before Negan gets to kill her. So Beta has a lot of right to be worried. But you gotta remember that Rick is not in the show anymore, so how this goes down could be completely different. In fact, there was no Daryl and Carol subplot. They were not in the woods with Negan, and they were not ever going to encounter Negan in the comic book. Daryl didn't even exist, and Carol was long dead. Negan just kinda came out here on his own. But I guess I should get into that. There's a quote, and I'll play it right here.
Who messes up, everyone else is gonna pay for it.
So Daryl just said that if he messes up, that everyone else is going to pay for it. And yeah, it is kind of hard to hear Daryl a lot of the time. The show could be best enjoyed with subtitles sometimes. So that he that he's referring to could be Negan. If Negan messes up, everyone else is going to pay for it, because Negan is on a solo mission, probably sent out by Carol. At least that's my theory, because no one knows who let Negan out of his jail cell. Likely it could be Carol. Gotta remember that Carol wasn't there for the execution of Glenn and Abraham, so she doesn't have that guttural hatred for Negan. She still hates him, but she hasn't seen the things most other people have seen, so she would be a little bit more lenient towards him. Of course, Daryl doesn't know this at the time, and I'm thinking, so Daryl and Carol are out in the woods and they see Negan there. Daryl likely freaks out, Carol stops him and says, and it kind of explains what her plan was, that she was planning on using Negan to get at the Whisperers, to infiltrate them, because none of the Whisperers know who Negan is, and Negan's a very capable person. Daryl, for whatever reason, is totally okay with the plan, probably because of her trust of Carol, and that could very well be the end of the scene there. Daryl could have been in a position where he could have killed Negan, which is obviously going to be his plan since he escaped, and Daryl's been looking for Negan for a while now. So if Carol did let Negan out, that means they did change a lot of things from the comic book, because in the comic book, Negan after the Savior War was just kind of out on his own, and he decided to infiltrate the Whisperer camp, kill Alpha, and bring her head to Rick as a demonstration that he has changed. He's a good person now and can be trusted, kind of join their group. That's the comic book Negan's twisted way of showing that. But in the show, Rick is quote unquote dead, he's gone off to the movies. He's not around anymore. As from Negan's perspective, Rick is just pure dead. So he's got to prove himself to Alexandria, not to one person. There's no real leader of Alexandria that Negan has had this kind of relationship with that he's had with Rick, that kind of like nemesis sort of thing. He doesn't even have that with Michonne, I would say. So it's not a really big deal that it was Carol's idea, potentially, to send Negan out on this mission to kill Alpha. I'm thinking what's going to happen is they're going to change some things around, because in the comic book, I think it was kind of a mistake to have Beta be the last Whisperer alive. What they're going to do is keep Alpha alive. The Horde is going to get unleashed for whatever reason, and Alpha will die at the very end. Beta could be the one that goes out earlier. So on a side note, during the teaser, we get this scene with Negan and Beta walking together, which in itself was incredibly exciting, because the Ryan Hurst, who plays Beta, and Jeffrey D. Morgan, they both have said this is going to be one of the most funniest episodes of The Walking Dead. And I can just imagine how that will be the case, because Negan, like the shit he says and how he's going to react to Beta, this gigantic Whisperer. I just can't wait for that banter back and forth. It's going to be really, really entertaining. And that's what The Walking Dead has kind of missed. It was some levity about everything. You can't really insert comedy into this, but I think it would definitely benefit the show. Beta is obviously very unsure of Negan. He cannot be trusted, like I mentioned before, but Alpha tells him to test him. So I don't know what she means by that or what they're doing out there. there. But what could happen here is that Negan and Beta, they both encounter Daryl and Carol, or just one of those two, and Negan's put in a position where to test him, we've seen this trope in a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, where you've got to prove yourself to the bad guy by killing someone that you like, a good person. So I'm thinking Negan's gonna be put in that position. He's got to kill Daryl or Carol, but something else will get in the way to where he doesn't have to make that choice and his cover won't be blown. That's my prediction for this scene. Of course, if Beta notices them in Whisperer territory, that could be perfect motivation to release the Horde. There's only so many times you can cross over and not have any consequence. There might as well not even be a border at this time. No one is respecting it. So the very last scene of this teaser trailer is Eugene playing with the radio, and he hears this.
Come on back.
Hello?
So if this is following the comic book, you know who this is. It's going to be Stephanie. Stephanie is of the Commonwealth, and Eugene and her form a sort of relationship, especially after they meet each other in person later at the Commonwealth. But there's a lot of ideas for other people it could be. Like, some people thought, hey, that could be Maggie, because Maggie's supposed to return. I'm thinking at this point she's just going to return near the later half of this season, because you can't really have her involved with the Whisperer War, right? At this point, it's so on the way that she wouldn't even know what way is up. So she's got to make a cameo or just appear at the very last episode. So I don't think this is going to be Maggie, because you have to introduce the Commonwealth at some point, and there's no real reason they should change this to be Maggie instead. Maggie is likely just going to show up at Hilltop. Maggie being in some sort of trouble where she has to call out for help via radio or just announce that she's coming back, that just doesn't seem like it makes any sense. Another idea was that maybe this is Jadis, and this could be the introduction of, the Rick movies, because we have to remember that Michonne does leave off to the movies after this season, so this could be the first step towards that goal. This could be Jadis, and Jadis could mention that Rick is alive. I don't know why she would say that. She seemed very secretive about that for the past 6 years or however long it's been. I think that's a whole thing in itself, is why does everyone find out that Rick's alive? I think they're gonna find out by them just hearing someone else mention that Rick Grimes is doing a thing, and then they're like, what? Rick Grimes is doing something? That means he's alive, he's out there, let's go find him. They're gonna hear someone else talking to someone else. They're not just going to be told, he's alive, come here. But it is possible that through Stephanie, we're going to hear that Rick is alive. She's just going to know about Rick Grimes. Maybe he's already doing something with the Commonwealth, or they have trade with that community. It could be anything, really. But that's basically it for this teaser trailer. There's one more thing I want to talk about, though, and that's Ezekiel being sick with cancer, because it's an interesting subplot, because in the comic book, he's already dead. He doesn't matter anymore. And here, he's alive, and they decide to give him cancer, which is very bizarre, because in a zombie apocalypse, you'd think you would want to die by a zombie, or in Walking Dead style, you would sacrifice yourself by protecting a bunch of other people. That's how I always imagined Ezekiel going down. So I think what's going on with him is going to be a plot to treat his cancer. What group out there can treat his cancer? The Commonwealth can. So Eugene makes contact with Stephanie. Ezekiel needs help. A lot of reason to go visit the Commonwealth and leave Alexandria and Hilltop and send a little convoy out there to treat Ezekiel. So that's just my thought on that. It makes a lot of sense. So all in all, this is going to be a very exciting episode, far better than anything we've seen this season. It's just been ramping up, as I said before. I think the highlight of this next episode is really just going to be Negan and Beta just talking to each other. And the moment Daryl realizes Carol likely let Negan out of his cell. Those are the things you should look forward to. But post your predictions for the next week's episode. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.